My next guest has spent over 20 years in the armed forces, moving his way up the ranks, and he was ultimately awarded the Distinguished Service Medal for leadership in combat. Put simply, he is a remarkable Australian. And now, Bram Connelly has penned a new book. I was already familiar with his previous novels. They're action-packed and they've got some great insights into what happens in the armed forces. But his new one is called The Commando Way, and it's where he shares his lessons for life, leadership and success. I'm delighted to say Bram is joining me now from Perth. Bram, thanks for your time. You have said, and it's on the back of your book, to be a good leader, you first have to be a good follower. But to be a great leader, you have to remember that being a good follower wasn't easy. And the commandos have this rather conventional military discipline. Is that important to developing good followers? And how do you translate that into business or the civilian environment?
G'day, Cory. I'm still reeling from you calling me a remarkable Australian. But anyway, look, actually, it's all about the early years of a soldier's career where they're subjected to imposed discipline until they learn their own self-discipline. And self-discipline, you may have heard me say before, leads to consistency. And consistency is actually the secret to becoming a champion in any field, actually. And this translates in the business world for sure. So the standard that you set is the standard that you accept. And I think this is critical to building a following as a leader. So, yeah, I do believe that it is transferable.
Well, your book is remarkable reading because it's filled with your personal anecdotes, and they're taken under broad headings which entitled Resilience, Optimisation, Leadership and Values. And I found them quite challenging because they're all absolutely important and to some extent they're interdependent. But is it fair to say one doesn't necessarily lead to the development of the other, or that they come in any particular order? So it could be that your values form your resilience, or which forms your optimisation, which takes you to leadership. Or is that just a too simplistic view for me to think about it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think understanding your own values and the values of the organisation that you're in is really important for a leader. And especially so if there's a nexus between your own values and that of the organisation. Might be time to leave. You're right, though. They're all topics that can be reviewed in sort of any order. Mental toughness and resilience, for instance, they're not exactly the same things, but so people could read that in the book and see the differences, perhaps.
Yeah, well, that leads me to another thing you said in the book. You said there's a very big difference between management and leadership. And that took me back into my own previous career in politics. And I've often said we're lacking leadership in many respects, and we're instead being given managers of things, and they're not showing true leadership. For the viewers, what do you see as the difference between those two things? And are we becoming a nation of managers where we really do need more leaders in every aspect?
Wow, two questions. I think Australians are pretty leadership literate, actually. They know the difference and they know good leadership when they see it. And I think most Australians would say something like, management is about processes and leadership is about the journey. Simon Sinek famously said, leadership is about compelling other people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. It's a lot more complicated than it sounds. You have to be able to provide purpose, motivation and direction. And to be honest, you've got to build a fan base to be an effective leader. Now, your second question was becoming a nation of managers. I think we see some great examples of leadership behaviours every day. Actually, I'm going to say something a little contentious here, Cory. Probably first time ever for Sky News. I saw the Australian cricket coach, Justin Langer, just the other day, who I greatly admired as an opening batsman, I must say. And he came to the defence of Captain Tim Paine in a TV interview about his behaviour in the last test. And I thought to myself, oh, beauty. This is going to be a great leadership sort of moment. Then straight after defending him, he started to make excuses for why the Australian captain, Tim Paine, had behaved in the way that he had. Now, you don't get to sit on the fence as a leader. If someone isn't meeting your expectations or if they deviate from the left and right guardrails of your organisational values, then that needs to be rectified on the spot. Anyway, look, that's just an observation that I made. I'm sure I won't be hearing from Cricket Australia about their leadership culture anytime soon.
I love your frankness, and that's why I listen to your podcast, which is fantastic, and everyone else should too. But quickly, I've got a minute or so, but tell me, who, out of all the leaders you've experienced, who were the ones that were memorable to you? What were the personal traits that made them so appealing or effective?
Yeah. Look, I think the very best leaders that I've witnessed had a few things in common. They saw leadership as an energy transference, firstly. Secondly, they cared about their teams and they created authentic personal relationships with their team members. Thirdly, they had the courage to fight. And then overall, they had a charisma. And I think that those 3 points is why they had that charisma. There's a great saying, people join companies, but they leave leaders. With that in mind, my advice is don't be that leader that people want to leave.